Everyone, good evening. First of all, I want to welcome you to Council Connections, a listening session on the healthcare system in Decatur. We are so glad that you are here this evening and available to share your perspectives on the healthcare system in our city and how we can improve it. My name is David Horn. I am a member of the Decatur City Council, and this is Councilman Dennis Cooper, and we are going to be your co-host for this evening's listening session. And tonight is really an opportunity to share one's experience with the city's healthcare system, including aspects that are working well and where there is an opportunity to improve. And you might ask, why do we have this community forum series called Council Connections? Well, it was formed because of a very strong desire by some members of the Decatur City Council to get public feedback on issues of importance to the residents of Decatur. And there's a strong conviction among many in the City Council that when we have open and transparent dialogue and good conversations, we can drive solutions to many of the challenges that our city faces. And so we are thrilled that you are here so that we can have that dialogue tonight. I also want to mention that the reason that there are 2 council members here and not more than 2 is because if we were to have 3 council members here, it could be a violation of the Open Meetings Act, and we want to be in compliance with that act. But I will mention that Councilwoman Consuelo Cruz wanted to be here tonight. She is very supportive of this series, and I know that she is here in spirit and is looking forward to hearing how tonight's forum went. I'm now going to turn it over to Councilman Cooper, who has a couple of remarks, then the ground rules, and then the listening session commences.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm not going to repeat everything that Councilman Horn has said. I'm just going to be real brief. But again, I too want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here. That lets me know that you're concerned about our city as we are, and as I'm concerned about our city. I think these forums are going to prove to be very productive in helping our city to mend together, to grow together, and to come up with solutions that face us all on an everyday situation. We all know that times are hard. Times are probably going to get even harder. But that doesn't mean that we need to stop trying to find solutions or things that we can do to help ease the economic pain or whatever pain that may be on anyone in our city by listening to the people, finding solutions, working together, cohesively together, and being a strong team. And that's what leadership is all about. So I think we're on the right direction, because I just was reading the paper on yesterday that the mayor of Springfield is starting these same type of forums in Springfield, where they're going to be holding meetings like this with one alderman at a time. So that lets me know that what Dr. Horn initiated us starting here, that this is what's needed, because we all know we need to hear from the people. So we want you to be free tonight to let us know and talk and let us know what the concerns are in the areas that we're talking about tonight. We will have another forum on next month. Right now, the October the 15th here in this room at 5:30, and the one next month will be working with the educational department, collaborating with them to find out how the city council and the educational department can collaborate together to help improve things in the school systems, which is real important, because if you don't have good schools, you're not going to have people moving into your city. I think it all works hand in hand. And we have a lot of plight in Decatur. The population's going down, We want to find things to move it back up. So come out to that one next month and be ready for that. And we'll have some certain speakers on the platform at that particular session. So back to Dr. Horn.
So just a couple of ground rules. I wanted to let you know that this is being recorded, so please keep that in mind. And of course, behind everyone is WAND TV, so this is being recorded, and your image and likeness could be seen by those who watch this later. Second, we ask that you please keep comments to less than 3 minutes. Neither Councilman Cooper or I has a gavel. We're not going to hammer the tabletop or anything like that. But there's a lot of folks here, so if you could keep comments to 3 minutes, that would be appreciated. I also wanted to recognize that we have several healthcare providers that are in the audience, and we're very appreciative that those providers have made it here this evening to hear from our residents. And we also have Representative Deering that is here today as well, and we're very happy that you're here tonight. Councilman Cooper and I are really here to listen. So we would appreciate if the conversation focused on your concerns. You're going to see us probably writing a note or two because we want to write down what you are saying, and we're just going to pass the mic from individual to individual. And I know there's a couple of individuals that have other meetings that they need to go to soon. So if we could maybe start with the individuals that have a tight time schedule if they want to make a remark, and we're just going to pass the microphone to those that want to speak.
Also, there's a few snacks in the back, and some water, so if you want a snack or water, feel free. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, all right, in the back.
Well, first of all, my name is Jim Taylor, and I definitely appreciate the two councilmen that listened to me gripe at the city council about this particular thing. Because I was standing up there griping forever, and I didn't think anybody would listen, but now I know you guys were. You know, it's a shame that how long we have to wait to go to DMH, because there's no other hospital to take part of the patient. If you ship it to Springfield, they overcrowd it now. If you go by St. Mary Hospital on a Friday evening to a Sunday night, there's no cars in the parking lot. There's many people live in the city of Decatur and the surrounding area. We cannot get by with one hospital. And I started that when I first saw that what was going on. I'm surprised that it could go from where it were to where it is now, and nobody knew about it. It was a surprise to me to find out that I know they didn't want to deliver babies anymore, but I didn't know they didn't want emergency room deals anymore. And when I found out that, then I started going to the city council meeting, griping about it every week. And finally, two people say, he got a good point, so I'm going to look into it, and I really appreciate you guys starting something that I hope we can do something about to get St. Mary Hospital back in operation where it should be, because the DMH is overcrowded. You go out there, you're going to be there 2 or 3 hours, and you might get waited on, and you might not. It's terrible. And then when they ship you to Springfield, if they want to put you on a helicopter, you know how much that costs to go over there. It costs you enough to drive over there. So everybody in here, talk to all your neighbors and your friends and everybody that you know, that all of us in the case are getting older now. We need more care. We need more places to go for care. So we need to talk to more people to get involved in this organization to try to change St. Mary back to where we were. Thank you.
I was timing in. Yep. I got my stopwatch right here.
Is there anybody, we've just heard about ER wait times. Is there anybody else that would like to talk about ER wait times?
My name's Bud Jackson, lived in Decatur for many years. Appreciate your time here. I'm sure you didn't add to your bank account or anything by being here. At any rate, approximately 3 years ago, I had a severe pain in the right kidney. I went to the emergency room and I had to stay there in severe pain for somewhere between 3 and 4 hours. They knew I was in severe pain because the first thing we do at DMH is check in, and they wanted to know what the problem was. And I was very disappointed that I had to wait over 3 hours, and it was diagnosed as a kidney stone. It's the worst pain I've ever had, and for me to have to wait there 3 hours, that was unacceptable. I'm not much of a thinker, but looking back, I wish they might have told me, you know what? Go to Kirby Hospital, your wait time there would be less than an hour over at Monticello. Or go to St. Mary's, your time wait would be less there than it is here. I'm sure good medical minds might think of something else that would benefit people in severe pain to not have to wait and at least be sedated or something to reduce the pain. That's all I have. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Vicki Sheets. I live in Decatur as well. And like the others have said, thanks David and Dennis for being here. Yesterday I spent the day in DMH ER with my 89-year-old dad. I had taken him to a cardiologist appointment. The cardiologist's office is in DMH. He had terribly low blood pressure, so they were concerned. So after about an hour and a half of the doctor coming back and forth, did an in-office EKG and all these other tests while he was there, they decided they weren't comfortable letting him go home with that blood pressure because they didn't want liability if he went out in the parking lot and passed out. So they wanted us to go to ER. Now, if my dad has a heart problem, I don't know what an ER doctor is going to do that the cardiologist whose office we're sitting in couldn't do. But after some discussion, they wanted him to have blood tests and such. And I said, well, my doctor gives me orders for blood tests. I don't go to the ER to sit and wait 6 hours to get a blood test done. At 89, I really don't want my dad in the ER if he doesn't have to be in the ER. Well, they finally agreed to give us the orders for a test, the lab testing, but they preferred we went to ER. And I was trying to give Dad the best care. They said, well, if he needs fluid, the ER can do it. We can't, this and that. So we went on down to the ER. We waited over 2.5 hours. People were coming in. All kinds of viruses are going around. I probably don't have to tell anybody that. COVID and whatever else is going around. So people are coming in. They've got on masks. Some of them are really nauseous. Some of them are hacking, gagging, coughing. And after 2 hours, Dad doesn't need to be sitting here. So we were heading over to the lab, just going to do the labs and call us if he needs something else that the blood work shows. But then an ER nurse came and wanted to do his blood now. So I said, great, we're getting waited on, right? No, they take us into the little lab there and tell us that they're going to put an IV in him, and he may or may not need fluids, but we're going to put an IV in him, but now we're not going to take him to the ER little waiting room or whatever. We're going to put him back out where the hacking, gagging, sick population is and let him sit. It could be an hour or it could be 6 hours because we're going to take him in a matter of importance. And I said, we're going to go to the lab, get the labs done. Call us when you know, we had to go back through the doctor because evidently if you have labs done at the ER and then you leave because you're tired of waiting, they throw that blood away, is what she told us. They do not use the test. You won't get those results. You have to come back and go through the lab, which is crazy. They also wanted to test his urine. So he had already given me that sample when we went over to the lab, he had to redo it because they pitched that sample, so evidently that's true. But that whole mess is crazy, so that's all I'm still waiting to hear the results on that, but so far my dad's doing okay.
Thank you, Councilman, for having this forum tonight. My name is Brian Smith, and I just wanted to relay a little story that happened to me last summer. My 98-year-old mother had some health issues, and I had to take her to the emergency room at St. Mary's. And she stayed in the emergency room for 3 days. Now, obviously, I have to be her caregiver. There's no one else. So I had to stay with her. That was tough, but she was there, she was confused, she didn't know what was going on, and I kept saying, are you going to put her in a room? We don't have a room, we don't have a room. We might send her somewhere else, but we don't have any room. Okay, they said, we're gonna have you talk to a specialist. We're gonna bring a doctor in, and he's gonna talk to her. They didn't bring a doctor in, they brought a computer monitor in, put it in front of her bed, and had a video conference call with a doctor in Springfield. Now, here's a 98-year-old lady who can't hear very well, trying to understand what a doctor is saying on a conference video call. Was not easy. We had to go back and forth with that. But anyway, before the fourth day came, they said, we got a room, we're gonna move you upstairs. So she goes upstairs, and as we're walking down the hall, I see all these empty rooms, and I said to the nurse, I said, why has she not been put into one of these rooms? He said, well, it's not that we don't have rooms, it's we don't have help. We don't have people to take care of her. So, you know, there's obviously a need here for trained people. I know there's a lot going on at some of the universities here and at Richland to get people into the healthcare workforce. But something needs to be done because this is a very serious issue.
Good evening. My name is Doris, and I really appreciate everybody being here. Yesterday, a group of us was at Millikan University. We met in the Schilling Center, and we got a chance to talk to some young people. Some of the young people here, out of state, out of town, and some of the local young girls, 19 and 20, they had questions about women's health. What clinic should they go to? I didn't have a lot of resources. I didn't have a lot of answers. I was told they had a campus clinic, but it shut down. Now, one girl I talked to from Chicago, and all her primary care and all her doctors are over 3 hours away. And she was very concerned because she has food allergies and other allergies. So I said, well, I'm gonna do some research and I'm gonna get back to you because she's not from Decatur, didn't grow up here, don't know the hospitals or the doctors. They don't have an on-campus clinic for her to go to, and she don't have any family here. So I am going to do my own research. Like I said, this just started yesterday. And I'm gonna get back with those young ladies I talked to yesterday, because in case they do have an emergency, and I know the ER is here. One girl says she hadn't even been off campus, just like 4 blocks radius since she's been here. She don't know anything about this town. So what's available to our Millikan students here? That is help. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Luigi Stewart. It all relates to my husband's health, but for your information, if you do want to go directly to Springfield or Kirby, the ambulance service will not take you there. They have to take you to the closest hospital. So we've kind of committed to going directly to Springfield Memorial because we've been sent there many times from our emergency room here at Decatur Memorial. However, if there is an emergency and we have to call an ambulance, we can't go directly to Springfield Memorial. That's probably an insurance issue, but as we regionalize our healthcare more and people are choosing to go directly to what I'll call the anchor hospital in the system, then that ambulance situation doesn't work out.
I don't have one directly on that if you wanted to.
Any sit-ups?
Why don't you go ahead?
My name is Kathy Stanford, and I'm concerned about non-emergency medical transport. And you, Councilman Horn, helped a couple of years ago when a man came to me. I'm a ship counselor at Catholic Charities, and he had an ambulance bill that had been sent to collections already. His wife needed an ambulance. The doctor ordered the ambulance to take her from her house to the doctor's office and back. She was so medically fragile. Now that was possible under Medicare. Medicare had done a pilot project, and now they were rolling it out to all the states, but the ambulance company didn't even send it to Medicare. They assumed it wouldn't be paid, and they sent the bill to collections. But with the help of Councilman Horn, he got me in touch with the person who's the head of the ambulance. And so he was surprised. You mean my billing people didn't even submit it to Medicare? They have a whole year from when the service was provided to submit it. So they had plenty of time, and they should have done it much more quickly. But they did do it, and that was resolved, and Medicare paid that bill 100%. But that person didn't need to go through all of that. So I'm just wondering how non-emergency medical transport is working and what we might do to not have that kind of thing happen to people.
So a couple of you did mention that you are going to other hospitals out of town. I was wondering if there were other folks that could comment on their experiences, whether you also are experiencing that, and for what type of services.
Good evening. My name is Carlotta Taylor. I'm not exactly experiencing any problems because I'm very healthy, knock on wood. But it was my mother. When my mother, back in last year in November, December, she was getting, I noticed her losing weight, but she never did say anything because I know my mom. She kept the same weight for probably 20-something years. So then all of a sudden she started going to the hospital, and she had went to St. Mary's. And then when she went to the those DMH, she went to the hospital. They would say things like, okay, we'll make sure she's hydrated, different things of this nature. That's why maybe she's having a little blackout spells and things, and so they would keep her, in the ER for quite some time, saying that there's no rooms available, and then we would have to wait sometimes 6, 7, 8 hours before she can sometimes even get a room, and then they would keep her there for a couple of days, because I would tell her she's faint, she lives by herself, this is not healthy, because what if she's on the ground, nobody knows, and then they would send her back home. Go back home, she faints again within 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm up here thinking like, okay, so why are y'all letting her out, sending her away? So then we take her to her different doctors. They still couldn't figure it out. So now I'm let it, So I was like, you know what? I'm through with this. I've shipped her to Tennessee to my sister, to the doctors in Tennessee. So we shipped her to Tennessee, and she got all the treatment, and the doctors there was. They had a whole round table with surgeons and everything. Like, why did the doctors here do this, do this, do this? because these are the steps for things, if this happens, this is what they were supposed to do. If this happened, this is what they're supposed to do. They said, I don't see anything in her chart that say that they did the steps that were supposed to be done at the hospital. So that's the problem here. They're not following through, and I mean, I don't know if it's because of the insurance somebody has, but it shouldn't matter. Everybody needs the right care. It should be treated equally, no matter what, because you know these are their loved ones. It's their kids, their grandmothers, their fathers, their cousins. People need help, so something needs to be done.
I'm going to sit this down for a minute because I'm not recording myself. Okay, so I'm Jennifer Ellis. I live here in Decatur. Back in 2018, I was diagnosed with an extremely rare neurological disorder. At the time, I was the only one in the city of Decatur. Nowadays, I'm one of 6. A year ago, I was taken by ambulance to DMH, no choice at the time. And one of my symptoms can tighten the muscles in my throat, causing my breathing to cut off, which then inadvertently throws me into non-epileptic seizures. The way that this is treated, and the hospital knows this because I've been taken by ambulance probably 10 times at this point, is I have to be given oxygen to calm down the coughing, the breathing, to trigger my brain to say, hey, guess what, you can still breathe. But then afterwards, I have to be given anxiety medication to calm down the seizures. And last year in August, we did another trip, and it was from my home. We got to the hospital. In the ambulance, they gave me oxygen, which is typical, no IV, no anxiety, and epilepsy medicine will throw me worse than typical. My condition is called functional neurological disorder, and I also have the non-epileptic seizures. And what really got us, after being brought in by ambulance, they put me in the waiting room. I was in the waiting room for 5 hours. There were nurses, there were ER staff, and this is at DMH. I had 304 seizures in 5 hours, and that's when we stopped counting. When they finally got me back, they talked down to my daughter, which is my POA. My daughter works through the Department of Rehabilitation as my helper. And the way that they talked to us and talked to her, like she had no knowledge of what was going on when this is an everyday thing for us, was ungodly and disrespectful. The lack of care from the people that watched me have seizures in the waiting room, and they just kept eyeballing, like, come on now, like seriously? Someone's having a seizure in your waiting room and you just walk away. So that is why I go to Champaign. That is why I go to Monticello. I will not step foot in Decatur hospitals unless I am dying. Back to my recording.
So we've talked about it.